Hi there everyone, welcome back to STEM Lockdown Digital School. This is grade 12 IT and I am your presenter Lelani Lagransi. Today we're going to look at the May-June paper of 2019 question 1. This is the supplementary paper written in 2019. So let's have a look at question 1.1. It's 4 very easy marks. Make sure that your random number that you are generating includes both 100 and 120, as you can see from the inclusive in the brackets. So if you are using random range, remember that this argument here must be one higher than the range that we want to select a random number from. And I've just stored it as an integer and display it in my edit box, and this should be 4 very easy marks for you. Remember, to use random range, you must always make sure that math is added to the uses of your program. This is now question 1.2, and a little tip: the moment that you see something like this where we have a table with different options or maybe even bullet points, this really indicates to me that I'm going to use either a case statement or a nested if. Now, I usually go for the case statement because I just find it a lot cleaner to code in, but I can only use that if the range or the variable that I'm testing is either integer or char, because remember, case statements only use ordinal values. So I will show you both solutions, but this is a tip for you, and now you can try. Let me scroll down so you guys can see the rest of the question. Very important is that when you're testing your program, that you use all the test data here. Everyone will give you a different output and will test a different part of that nested if or case statement of yours. And also take note of the wording that says that the value must be rounded up. Rounding up does not mean using round. We have to round the value up to the closest integer. Here's an example of output for you, so press pause and try it yourself. So first we need to get the number of participants, and make sure that you store it as an integer number because the participants can't be 1.5 person. So therefore I am storing it as an integer because that will allow me then to use this variable in a case statement as I've done. So for the first range it was 0 to 20. So in the number of participants less or equal to 20. Since we're not asked to validate the input from the user, we may assume that they won't enter any negative values. So here is my range from 0 to 20 and multiplying 2.5 by the number of participants to calculate the minutes that we need. The next range was 21 to 50, and that's what I've done in here. And then 2.3 was the number of minutes that I need to use. But if I'm using a case statement, I can't say greater than 50. In other words, I have to use an else statement to calculate the values greater than 50. Remember about the else for the case statement. It's an optional else, same as your if statements. You don't have to have it. But it could be very useful for a range that says for the last range it must be bigger than a value, because that would be the only values left. If it's not a value from 0 to 50, it must be a value from 51 and up. Now if you wanted to do your if statement, this is what it would look like. And I am testing here if my first range, as in my case statement, if the number is less or equal to, very important, 20 is included, less or equal to 50. Then I do my calculation, and now I have a nested if. So in the else of the first if, I place another if statement, and here I'm testing if the value is less or equal to 50, and then do my calculation. The only option that is left is any value over 50, so there's no need here to have an if statement to test if the value is greater than 50. I could just put this in my else. Now just have a look at an example of, let's say the number was 19. This here would be executed. So all of this is then ignored. Remember, your if statement will either go to the true or the false part, which is in the else, of the if statement. So this part here won't execute for any number between 0 and 20. And that's for that reason that I don't need a second condition in this if statement to say, and our number is greater or equal to 20. If you did it correctly, that's fine, but you guys often make a mistake by adding the second condition and then not doing it correctly, and then you lose the marks there. Whereas if you just use the one condition, it doesn't need brackets here. If you just use the one condition there, it will still execute correctly, because the moment that this if statement executes, I know the value of our number is greater than 20, because if it was 20 or less, this will be executed and all of this will be ignored and my output will be displayed. So then we display our output. We had to display the minutes with the decimal values before we round it up. And remember the function ceil. Ceil will round the value up to the closest integer. So it will make 41.2, it will make 42. And then if you are using my method, I'm just overwriting our minutes because I'm done with it here. I've displayed the one with the decimals. So I'm just overwriting it there with my rounded up value. Then it's important to make sure if you're using floater string f that you're not displaying any decimal values. Also remember that ceil is also in the math unit, so you need to add the math to the uses of your program. This is question 1.3, and I'm sure you guys have done the factorial of a number, but it is also explained in here. So if I have a number like 4, I have to multiply the numbers 1 to 4 with each other and get the answer, and that would be the factorial. Here's the rest of the question, and it is actually a very short program. I'm going to show you the memo soon, so press pause and try it yourself. So here I have the input from the user for the spin edit, and very important is I have initialized ans to 1. I'll get back to the y just now. I could start here at 1, that won't make a difference, but in my solution I'm just multiplying from 2, because remember 1 times any number is the same answer, so there's no point in multiplying with 1. And I'm looping all the way to the number entered by the user. So this is almost like a running total where I multiply the answer that I had before with my loop variable. So let's just take an example of the input from the user being 6. I am setting ans to 1. So now I'm multiplying 1 with 2, as in this example here. So my answer for ans is 2. Next time I'm looping, my answer there is 2, and I'm multiplying it with the next k, which would be 3, and my answer is 6. Next time I'm looping, ans is 6, and I'm multiplying it with 4, and then my answer is 24. And so it will continue until the k it reaches 6. Now remember I said before, when a variable is on both sides of the assignment statement, we need to initialize it. And when there's a loop, we will initialize this variable directly above the loop. Now in the past, you guys have used 0 to use a running total, but imagine I made ans 0. I would be multiplying 0 with a value. My answer will always be 0. For that reason, I have changed this to 1. And I'm multiplying 1 with my k. Remember, if I multiply any number with 1, it's not going to make a change to it. A very good practice exercise is to write your own power function. We have the power function also in the math unit that takes a number to the power of another number. And it is a very good exercise, very similar to this question here, to calculate that answer. And then right at the end here, I'm just displaying this answer in the edit box, EDT factorial. Now the last question here is dealing with some string handling. So you have to read carefully. You're not just reversing the sentence. That would be very easy. You are finding each word and reversing each word. Before you try this though, I'm going to take you guys to my book and let's quickly have a look at just revising some of the string functions that we have. So the length function is often used when we're looping through a string, and that is what we'll use today as well. The length function is used in my for loop from 1 to the length of the string, but it's also often used for validation to check if a number like an ID number or a cell phone number is the correct length. Important that you save those numbers as strings and not as integer values, because we're not really interested in the number as an integer value. And also if the number starts with a 0, that 0 will be dropped and you will have a different number stored. So then we have the functions uppercase and upcase. Uppercase we're going to use with strings and upcase we're going to use with chars. Now it is possible to put a char inside of uppercase in the brackets, but the problem with that is it changes the data type of that char to a string data type. And then we won't be able to use that variable anymore in our structures that need ordinal values like a case statement or a for loop or an in operator. So for that reason, it's important to use upcase with my char data types, because that will keep the data type as a char. Then we also have the lowercase function, and we can send it either a string or a char. It always returns a string, and there's no alternative for using lowercase to return a char data type. One solution would be to add square brackets 1 to the end. Then we have the odd and what I call the char function. I call it the char function because you guys get confused between char the data type and char the function, because char the function will take a number and return for you the corresponding character from the ASCII table. So if we have a look here, let's say 101 was stored in a variable, and in brackets I put this variable with the char function. It will then return for me E, because E's corresponding ASCII value is 101. And OR does just the opposite. You need to send it a char data type, and then it will return for you the ASCII value of that character. One function that you guys often get wrong or use incorrectly is the copy function. Even though it's producing the correct output, you are not necessarily using this correctly. The first two arguments you guys usually get right. So this is the string that I'm sending it, and I want to copy from that string, and X is the position from where I am copying from. But the Y is the part that you guys get wrong. Y is not up to where I want to copy. It's how many characters I want to copy, starting at X. So if I look at something like a string that says I know IT rules, and I want to copy from 3 for 4 characters, I am copying out the no. So it's 1, 2, 3, that's where I start, and I'm copying out 1, 2, 3, 4 characters. If you are saying incorrectly that the copy function wants to copy from there to there, I would only be copying out 2 characters. So take note of that and make sure that you always use the right argument for the last argument of the copy function. Then we have the pos function that we've used quite a lot in the previous videos, and I'm looking for a substring in another string. So if I'm looking for am in I am taking IT, it will find and return for me the position of where the A of am was found. So that would be position 3. Remember that pos is case sensitive, so if I'm looking for IT in I'm taking IT, it will return a 0 because the lowercase it does not exist in this sentence. And then we also can use a single character, and we can find a single character in a sentence. It will find the first one, so if I have another B later on, it will find for me the first character. and that would be position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then these two functions that I haven't really used much, but I do think they are quite useful. If I send it's suc and pred, so successor and predecessor. If I send it a character, like in the example you have the variable contained a B, it will then return a C, so the next character in my ASCII table. For predecessor, it will just do the opposite, so if I send it a B, it will then return an A. And then we have the insert function, and this is where the string we want to insert into the second argument string, and then X is the position at where we're going to insert this into. Very important is that your middle argument has to be a variable, because that's the variable that is changing inside of this procedure. So if I wanted to insert LLO, or I have LLO, and I want to insert HE at position 1, after this line, my string variable will say hello. And delete you guys have used often. And it's just taking a string, also have to be a variable, from this position, and I'm copying out for 3 characters. Again, similar to your copy function, the last character is not up to where you want to delete. It is for how many characters I want to delete. So I want to delete from character 6, which is N, and I want to delete 3 characters, so I'm deleting 1, 2, 3 characters. So let's have a look here at question 1.4. There is the input from the user for my sentence, and I have added a space at the end. The reason I'm doing it is that I want to find words, and the way to find words is by searching for spaces. And the last sentence that a user entered does not have a space after it, so I won't find that last word. So for that reason, I'm just adding a space here so I am able to find the last word. Now my S new is going to contain the new sentence, and S word is going to copy out each word and then reverse it and then add it to S new. So I'm starting with an empty string. I'm looping from 1 to the length of the sentence, and then I'm adding each character to my sentence. So here I am adding my character, and then I test if the character I've added just now is a space. I then want to reverse that word. But remember, you don't want to reverse with the space, else your sentence will start with a space. So that's why I'm starting here with my inner loop from the length of the word -1, so that I exclude that space. Then I reverse the word that I have by adding it to my new sentence that contains the reversed words. And I'm just adding every character backwards using my down to. And then when I'm done with that, I add now a space after this reversed word. Important now is that you initialize this S word again, because you will now want to find, if I was finding the, I now want to find cat. So I need to clear it with a the, and then I will loop again and add CAT and the space, and then I will reverse the word and add it to my new sentence. At the end, all I have to do is I need to display S new in my edit box. And that was it. So before you watch the next program, please try question 2, which is our questions that deal with the database of the supplementary of 2019. If you go to education.gov.za, you will find that under curriculum and the National Senior Certificate as the May-June of 2019 papers. Also remember to download the exam guidelines of 2018 from curriculum and then national curriculum statements by going to 2018. That was the last time we received an update to date of the exam guidelines, and this website here could also be quite helpful. Thank you for watching Grade 12 IT at STEM Lockdown Digital School. Remember to follow Africa Teen Gigs on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and also search for the channel on YouTube. Hope to see you soon!